Welcome to the Zen of Reffing Roller Derby, Lesson 16, Advanced Scoring. I'm Max, this is Steve, the author of the training manual. I'm filming this on May 31st, 2018. The content of this presentation is up to date as of this recording. Should this video become outdated or replaced by a newer version, I'll put a link on the screen to where you can find more information. As always, you can find the latest version of the full training manual at www.tinyurl.com/zenreffing. A quick disclaimer. The WFTDA, MRDA, and JRDA are not responsible for the content of the training manual or this presentation, nor do they make any claims as to the accuracy of their content. Another note, if you spot any errors or outdated information in this presentation, please put a comment on YouTube explaining the issue and listing the time code. Lesson 16, Advanced Scoring. Now this is where it gets fun, folks. For the first half of the training program, we've been focusing on the how of reffing. How to do hand signals, how to do whistles, how to be in position, the basic concepts of the game. But we haven't actually really gone into the meat of what it means to be a ref. In other words, the actual penalties we're calling, the actual nitty-gritty on the score. That's what we're going to be getting into for the next bunch of lessons. So today we're going to talk about advanced scoring concepts, or in particular, 7 ways to score a point. And yes, if you're thinking, wow, 7 ways to score a point, I can't really think of more than 1 or 2, then I'm not surprised, because actually, you'll be surprised though, because there used to be 8, and the current rules set actually eliminated one of them. As you may remember from the last lesson, we talked about 3 basic concepts of scoring. Number 1, to avoid being scored upon, an opposing skater must stay in front of the jammer, or arrange it so that when the jammer passes that person, that they do so in an illegal manner, either a no-earn pass or a penalty. Number 2, points are scored by lapping opponents. Number 3, if the point cannot be earned by lapping an opponent, for example, they're not on the track at all, they stayed on the bench or something, then that point must be available to be earned in another way. In other words, go back to number 1, that skater has to remain in front of the jammer or make the jammer get no earn pass on them if they want to defend their point. We're going to keep coming back to those concepts again and again today, because many of the scoring things we're going to talk about are different ways to lap the opposing players, or the patches for how those points can be earned in another way. Now this is going to get complex as well, because like I said, this is advanced scoring. So what I recommend today is that if you're new to jam reffing or new to reffing, listen to this once to learn how scoring works. Go jam ref a couple of scrimmages, then come back and listen to it again. And at that point, start talking to other referees, because there's going to be a lot of very odd, funky situations, and a lot of complex scoring issues, and things that you want some advice or insight into. And while my videos are a great forum for teaching you how to do these things, they're not good for answering your questions. So talking to an experienced official will help. I also suggest that even if you have no interest in jam reffing, that you make a point of learning this stuff inside and out. For one thing, all referees need to know how scoring works in the game, and I don't think that some of them know it as well as they should, because even as an OPR, even if you never jam ref and you spend the rest of your life OPRing every single game, there are going to be games when you can provide very useful information to the jammer referee, and I'm not talking about nodding or no-earn pass or something, but you can go in and provide the jammer referee with a critical piece of information they need to correct their score. Or alternately, the jammer referee is sometimes going to be coming to you, asking you what you perceived, and knowing what they're getting at is going to help provide them with better answers. And if you want to be a head referee, you absolutely want to know this stuff as well, because teams are going to come in and challenge the scoring at times, either in official reviews or just to say, hey, we earned 3 points, we only got 2 on the board that last game. So being able to make a very fast assessment of what's going on, or at least understand the scoring issues at play, will be very, very helpful. So, let's talk about the 7 ways to score a point. I'll make my referees disappear because we don't need them. Number 1, passing an opposing blocker at the hips. This is the classic one. Yellow jam. Let's assume these are all scoring passes. If it's the initial pass, then I will explain. But assume for the next, next half an hour of this lesson, everything's a scoring pass or a scoring trip through the pack. I still use the outdated terminology. So yellow jammers on their scoring trip, they come and they pass the opposing skaters at the hips. Boom, 4 points. We're going to assume there's no jammer lap point here. But yellow goes through 1, 2, 3, 4. They get 4 points for passing the opposing blockers at the hips. Now, something to keep in mind, purple 3 is out of bounds. Boom, it's still 4 points. Even though the jammer needs to be upright in bounds, as we said in the last lesson, it doesn't matter if their target is. Similarly, purple 2 can be down. It's still 4 points for going through the pack here. Next, an opponent skating clockwise past a down jammer. So let's say yellow jammer is skating up. Oh, and yellow jammer falls down. And so now they're in a down position. Purple 1 skates clockwise past them. Maybe, okay, now that means that purple 1 has given up their point and that yellow jammer now gets a point. Here's why. Because remember what we said about this person needs to remain in front of the jammer to defend their point or arrange them to get no earned pass. Well, jammers fall down. It happens sometimes. The jammer, though, was not intentionally or even making an act of going past 1. Instead, purple 1 took advantage of that down to try to go past. So now yellow jammer would be in sort of a situation where if they want purple 1's point, they need to start chasing them clockwise. And eventually purple 1 gets stuck at the back of the pack, and now yellow jammer has to go out and back in. The rules really don't like the idea of jammers having to chase blockers clockwise on the track. The only time it's going to require that is if there's a no earned pass. Purple 1, they both go out of bounds, and yellow jammer comes back in front. Purple jammer comes in, and purple jammer then goes to the back. Because remember what we said, that blocker needs to remain in front of the jammer or make sure they get their point by no earned pass. Yellow jammer could have entered legally, did not, so now the game's okay with yellow jammer having to chase the purple blocker clockwise. But for all practical purposes otherwise, if yellow jammer's down, purple 1 skates clockwise past them, purple 1 has voluntarily surrendered their superior position and thus given up their point. That's number 2. Number 3, not on the track points. This is going to get a little complicated. A not on the track point is a skater who is not on the track. As we said, they have to be on the track. They got to be in front of the jammer or the no earned pass. So let's suppose purple 3 is sitting in the penalty box. Well, how is yellow jammer supposed to get their point? Here's the front of the engagement zone, so you can't treat them as an out-of-bounds skater because by the time yellow jammer gets up here to try to pass purple 3, they're stuck. If they go forward, they're out of the, they've left the engagement zone, they're on a new scoring track. So purple 3 has basically put themselves into a position where they can't be passed. Or, worse yet, what if purple 3 said, you know what, screw you guys, I quit, and leaves and goes off to the locker room or gets in their car and drives home, and now you have no idea where they are. And how's yellow jammer supposed to pass purple 3 now? They really can't. So the rules basically say that if a skater is not on the track, that point is earned by earning a pass, basically scoring a point, on the first opposing blocker of that scoring pass, so of that scoring trip. So case in point, here we're going to put purple 3 back in the box. We're going to spread the pack out a little bit, like this. Yellow jammer comes in, and yellow jammer passes purple 1. Yellow jammer gets a point for purple 1, but yellow jammer also gets the point for purple 3, because yellow jammer has now unlocked not points. Has basically, because yellow jammer has earned a point on opposing blocker, now gets all the point. Now gets the point on purple 3 because they have not legally defended their point in that respect. So this, now mind you, this doesn't have to be passing at the hips. This could also be purple 1, yellow jammer is down, purple 1 skates clockwise past yellow jammer, and boom, purple 3's point is also scored. So yellow jammer got 2 points in that case. There are going to be some other things we're going to talk about, 4, 5, and 6 in a minute. The ways 4, 5, and 6. Those would also trigger the not points. The only thing that would not trigger a not point would be a jammer lap point, and we'll talk about that last because that can get very complicated. So jammer lap points will not trigger not points. It has to be a earned pass or a point scored upon the opposing blocker. And pivot in this case counts as blocker. So, what is a not point? A not point is 5 different things. Number 1, an opponent on their way to or from the penalty box, meaning back and forth from the track to the penalty box, or serving time within the penalty box. Also, if that brief moment in time when they say, tweet purple 3 forearm, and purple 3 is exiting the track, they're still on the track, but they're still leaving the track, they're also a not point during that moment as well. They are not a not point until that penalty has been called. So, but during that specific moment, once the penalty has been called, purple 3 is considered in the box for purposes of scoring. So basically, tweet purple 3 forearm. Now they're a not point, 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 not point. And once they get back on the track, they're still a not point, but we're going to go into that in a minute. So that's one. Another one. An opponent who leaves the track due to injury. Ow, purple 3, boom. They're really hurt. They crawl off the track. They say, go on, I'm fine, but they're just out. They've twisted their ankle. They crawl 10 feet off the track. They're outside of the area. They're not endangering things. The game is continuing, but they're not going to return to the jam. Purple 3 is a not point in that case. Now, you have to use a little judgment there. If purple 3 is just simply, they get hit in the stomach and they're just a little winded and they just step off the track and they're like, I'm fine. They're standing there, but they're winded and they're just, for a minute, you can treat them as an out-of-bounds skater. What is the point where they cease from becoming an out-of-bounds skater to becoming a not point? That's up to the referee to decide. There's really not a good. There's no simple answer to that question. So it's use your judgment and use your discretion basically. Next, an opponent not participating in a jam. This could be purple 3 saying, "Screw you guys, I'm going home." On Eric Cartman, like on South Park. That would be one. Could also be purple 3 just never got to the jam in time. They were touching the line when the jam began. They were told to return to the bench, and now they're sitting back on the bench. So purple 3 is not in the jam. Well, how are you supposed to score a skater not in a jam? Treat him as a not point. Next, an opponent who leaves the track temporarily due to equipment or skate issues. So, for example, oh my God, my truck broke on my skate, and they go back here, and they go back to the bench and they sit down. We're going to treat them as a not point at that point. Now, they could return to the jam later, but if they put on a new skate, if they somehow magically fix their plate, maybe it's just a wrist guard. Maybe they just got to insert something in their wrist guard, whatever. Once that's fixed and they return, they're back in the jam, it'll be treated the same way when they're returned from the penalty box. We'll go over that in a second. Then they are, they're no longer a not point. But for as long as they're back on the bench, yeah, they are. Again, use your judgment. If purple 3 just steps off the track and, leans down to retie their shoelaces, just treat them as an out-of-bounds skater. And as always, there is no formal distinction between, or there's no formal demarcation between being a not point and just being out of bounds. Use your discretion. Finally, and I've kept promising this, an opponent who returns to the track. Again, this could be from injury, this could be from equipment failure, could be from the penalty box, that they have returned to the track, but they are behind the jammer. So in this case, they still count as a not point. And the reason being is this, because suppose, here's our pack. Oops. There we go. And yellow jammer is, it doesn't matter where purple, I'll put the purple jammer up there. Yellow jammer is in the pack, and they have not scored any not points. Now purple 3 returns to the track. So they're no longer on their way back from the box. They are back on the track. But they're still behind yellow, excuse me, they're still behind yellow jammer. Yellow jammer now triggers not points. So, but there's no one in the box, no one quit the jam, everybody's on the track. If yellow jammer were not given purple 3's point, then all purple 3 has to do to defend it is to stay behind yellow jammer. And again, that's not what we want. We want them to stay in front of the jammer or require the jammer to get a no-earned pass. So now yellow jammer has to skate clockwise and then go back past them. And again, as I've been saying, that's not what the game wants. So, Purple 3 returns to the track. Yellow Jammer comes up here, get Purple 3's not points. So Yellow Jammer has 2 points as of this position. Now, it could play out a little differently. Suppose Purple 3 returns to the track, again, is a not point, but the not points have not been unlocked. And then suddenly, Purple 3 gets ahead of Yellow Jammer. Well, now that they're ahead of Yellow Jammer, they can now legally defend their point. So we're not going to treat them as a not point anymore. So now even if Yellow Jammer passes Purple 2, they only get 1 point, because Purple 3 has returned to a legal position where they can defend their point. Along with all 5 of these too, any unexpected situation that crops up, you can include that in here. So, for example, a skater is expelled mid-jam, and instead of going to the penalty box, they leave the venue, or they leave the track area. Fine, not point. I'm not sure I could think of something, other cases, but if you encounter something really screwy or something, you can treat that as a not point. You have a little bit of discretion in this. Now, let's see. I want to talk about another way that not points can get triggered. Now that I've explained to you how not points get earned, let's say this is a scoring trip. And okay, here we go. Put these 2 in the box. So it doesn't matter where Purple Jammer is. Okay, so Yellow Jammer comes in. And unfortunately, Yellow Jammer is kind of stuck right now, stuck behind the 2 Purple Jammers. So Yellow Jammer has not triggered the not points yet. And these 2 now return behind Yellow Jammer. So these 2 are potential not points, but they have not been earned yet because Yellow Jammer has not passed anyone or has not earned a point on any opposing blockers. Suddenly, both these skaters take a penalty, and they leave the track. Yellow Jammer then completes their trip to the pack. Yellow Jammer has not actually earned a point on any other blocker. They have not been able to trigger not points. So we now have basically Yellow Jammer has slipped through a crack in the scoring rules where none of these skaters defended their point by, again, staying ahead or causing the no earn pass. Yet no points have been awarded. So when Yellow Jammer completes their trip to the pack, we're going to instantly award Yellow Jammer all 4 points, because we're going to say, hey, Yellow Jammer did what they're supposed to do. It was the other blockers that did not. It was the blockers who did not defend their point legally. So Yellow Jammer is going to get to earn their points immediately. That can also trigger not points. So if the Purple Jammer was in the box, and we play out the same situation here, these 1 and 3 return to behind the Jammer. Jammer's stuck. 2 and Pivot go off the track because they've got a penalty. Yellow Jammer gets out of the engagement zone. Yellow Jammer, in this case, would score the 4 points for these 4. And because they earned the 4 points on these 4, they're also earning the point for Purple Jammer up here. Basically, all 5 are considered not points in this case. So Yellow Jammer gets that. So this is that was a 5-point pass for Yellow Jammer because nobody else defended their points legally. Now, I want to talk here a little bit about Jammer and their helmet cover. So, let's say Yellow Jammer is coming through, and Yellow Jammer's helmet cover is on inside out. It's not visible. Now, as we said in the last lesson, that's not allowed. They don't get any points for that. The opposing team has a right to know who the Jammer is. And wearing a helmet cover with the stars not visible, which usually means the cover is inside out and it's not like a reversible helmet cover, so there's like a little stitching or something around the edge outlining where the star would be, but it's not a full, nice, visible star. In the case where the helmet cover is not showing the star, you should treat it as the same way as if the Jammer is not even wearing the cover and just holding it in their hand. They can't score points. So in this particular case right now, boom, Yellow Jammer goes through. Yellow Jammer didn't get any points. They exited the engagement zone. They got no points. There was no earned pass on all of those. So because it was the Yellow Jammer's own damn fault, they didn't get any points because they didn't have their star visible. So let's try this example here. Let's say Yellow Jammer is skating, entering a fresh trip to the pack and passes Purple 3, so has triggered not points. And then Yellow Jammer gets stuck. Yellow Jammer is just kind of frustrated and stuck, and decides, Yellow Jammer decides, I think I might do a star pass. So Yellow Jammer takes off their helmet cover. So they're no longer wearing, or maybe the stars were just not visible. It doesn't matter. Point being is they're not wearing the cover with the stars visible. So while it's not visible, Purple One gets a penalty and goes to the box. Yellow Jammer, even though they've triggered not points, does not get the point for Purple One. We're going to hold that point in abeyance because the cover does not have the stars visible. If Yellow Jam then manages to get through and exit the engagement zone, Yellow Jammer gets 1 point for Purple 3 because they weren't wearing the star with they weren't wearing the star. They were had it reversed or holding it in their hand. They have to have the star on their head with the stars visible. So same case, but this time Yellow Jammer passes Purple 3, gets stuck, takes the cover off. Purple 1 goes to the box, and then Yellow Jammer manages to get past these two, but then puts the cover on before leaving the engagement zone. The moment the cover is back on legally, stars visible, blah, 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 Purple 1 is instantly, that not point is awarded because they have now, put it back on and they've gotten it back. So now, if Yellow Jammer exits the engagement zone, they get 2 points. So because they put it back on and the stars were visible. Same scenario, but instead of putting the cover on here in the engagement zone, Yellow Jammer exits, then puts the cover back on. 1 point. Again, once they leave the engagement zone, we've turned the page in the book where we're recording points, metaphorical book, and we can't go back and give any points back from the last trip through the pack. Yellow Jammer needs to have that star visible. There's a similar situation. Let's say Yellow Jammer is going through here, and Yellow Jammer passes Purple 3, goes to the box, is sent to the box. So Yellow Jammer's in the box. While they're in the box, Purple 1 is sent to the box. Jam now ends. It's 1 point for passing Purple 3. Yellow Jammer does not get the point for Purple 1 because they're in the box. You can't get points when you're in the box. Same scenario, but instead of the jam ending, Yellow Jammer returns to the track. As soon as Yellow Jammer is back on the track, Yellow Jammer gets the point for Purple 1 because it's just like the stars visible. That jammer needs to be on the track. They need to be on a place where they can get points. As soon as Yellow Jammer's back on the track, they get that point. This could also work with multiple people. So Yellow Jammer passes Purple 3, Yellow Jammer goes to the box, 2 skaters go to the box, Yellow Jammer's released and re-enters the track. As soon as they re-enter the track legally, bam, Yellow Jammer instantly gets the points for Purple 1 and Purple 2. So again, the not points were earned, but because Yellow Jammer was not in a position where they could score, we held those points in abeyance for a little while. Similar situation, but this time, let's see what happens if Yellow Jammer does not trigger the not point. So Yellow 3 is skating, Yellow 3 gets a penalty, goes to the box. Purple 2, Purple 1 get penalties. They come to the box. So, as a matter of fact, we'll even say Purple 1 is withdrawn from the jam due to equipment failure. So we got 2 different types of not points. Yellow Jammer then returns to the track, and the jam ends. Yellow Jammer gets no points because Yellow Jammer did not trigger the not points. Remember, that was the difference in the scenarios. In one scenario, Yellow Jammer had passed 3 before they went to the box. In the other scenario, they did not. So Yellow Jammer still has to earn those points. So we could also craft the scenario where, Yellow Jammer goes to the box, Purple 1 goes to the box, Purple 2 does equipment failure, Yellow Jammer returns to the track, passes Purple 3, and then the jam ends. Well, this is just like regular not points. The box trip that Yellow Jammer did, that was a red herring. That was just a little fake something like that. It didn't affect the math. It was just simply not points like any other. As soon as Yellow Jammer passed Purple 3, Yellow Jammer got the 2 not points and the point for Purple 3. 3-point pass. All right, I want to continue going on here. I want to talk about another type of, these are not points. We've kind of moved on now. This is way number 4 that points can be scored. This has to do with out-of-play blockers. So let's say there's a scoring trip through the pack, and we got these 3 over here. They're kind of holding back. Purple 3 is bridging. Matter of fact, we don't even need a bridge. Purple 3 is back in here trying to help their teammate. And there we go. So Yellow Jammer is trying to get through, trying to get through, trying to get through, and eventually these three go out of play, and Yellow Jammer gets out. Well, technically speaking, Yellow Jammer has entered a new trip, a new scoring trip. So rather than say, well, so sorry, you didn't get that, we say, yes, these three, while they did remain in front of the Jammer, they did not do so in a legal place. They had to go out of play to do it. That is not a legal way to defend your point. So in this particular case, as soon as Yellow Jammer exits the engagement zone and that scoring trip through the pack ends, we're going to instantly award all three of these points for these three blockers that were ahead of the engagement zone because they didn't legally defend their point. So bam, 4-point pass for Yellow Jammer. Notice that the 4-point pass, by the way, is earned, or the 4 points is earned the instant Yellow Jammer gets out of the engagement zone. So if it looked like this, Yellow Jammer gets out, gets all the points, so now it's 4 points, and then the jam ends, that was still 4 points. The fact that Yellow Jammer, might have otherwise gone past them about 2 seconds later, doesn't enter the equation. It is worth noting, by the way, that these blockers count as belonging to the prior pack. So let's say that same scenario. Yellow Jammer gets out, boom, instantly gets 4 points for the pass, or for that scoring trip. If Yellow Jammer then passes these three, going around, it's not like they score an extra 3 points. These three have to skate back to the prior thing, and Yellow Jammer is going to be expected to score on them as they come around. They don't get the bonus 3 points for, somehow magically passing them at that point. Next, we've got a similar situation now. But instead of the, here, let me move these three back up. Here we go. Yellow Jammer's trying to get through, and the three are out of the engagement zone, and then the jam ends. Yellow Jammer hasn't gotten out. This is, number 5 now on 5 or 7 ways to score a point. Number 5 is out-of-play blockers ahead of the engagement zone at the end of a jam. It's very similar to number 4. Number 4 was at the end of a scoring trip, when Yellow Jammer got out. Number 5, at the end of a jam. So in this particular case, we're going to give those points because, again, they did not legally defend their points. They had to go into an illegal position to do it. The game is also trying to discourage blockers watching the clock and going, as soon as they notice there's 2 seconds left in the jam, all the blockers instantly sprint forward and race out of the engagement zone, knowing that if Yellow Jammer can't quite make it out, Yellow Jammer doesn't get their points. Or maybe even one stays in just to try to defend, just to slow Yellow Jammer slightly and the other two sprint out. This is not what we want. We want these blockers in the engagement zone defending their points. Number 6, a jammer who returns to the track from the penalty box ahead of an out-of-play in the rear blocker. Let me explain this. All right, again, I'm going to stick Purple Jammer just out of the way because it doesn't matter for this. Okay. Let's see. Here we go. Purple 1 is in the box. Yellow Jammer gets a penalty and goes to the box. Purple 1 re-enters here and begins skating around the track. Yellow Jammer gets released. Yellow Jammer skates back here. Purple 1's up to here. And Yellow Jammer enters. Notice what Purple 1 is doing. Purple 1 is not defending their point by being ahead of Yellow Jammer. So all Purple 1 has to do is just skate at the exact same speed as the pack, or, slowly catch up, there. But in the meantime, Yellow Jammer would have to skate clockwise, go around, go around Purple 1, and come back. And the game hates jammers having to skate clockwise. It only requires that if the jammer is screwing up. So, Yellow Jammer, what they do instead is they basically say, okay, well, when Yellow Jammer returns to the track, ahead of an out-of-play in the rear blocker, we're just going to instantly give that point to the jammer. It's not even going to be a not point. That can trigger not points, as a matter of fact. So Purple 2's in the box, and then Yellow Jammer returns from the penalty box. Bam, 2 points instantly to Yellow Jammer. 1 for the not point, and 1 because they triggered the not points by earning the point on Purple 1. The lesson being, Purple 1, get your ass back to the engagement zone. Defend your point legally. Don't try any shenanigans about hanging halfway back and going the same speed as the pack or anything like that. Now we're on to jammer lap points, and this is going to get complicated for a while here because jammer lap points are simple in theory, somewhat complex in their execution. Okay, here's the scoop. As we've said, basically, a jammer, ignore the other jammer for a moment. Jammers score points by lapping opponents. Passing at the hips, whatever, not points, whatever. But they get points by doing this. And normally that's pretty easy to figure out. You got 4 blockers, there's 4 potential points every time the jammer goes past. Well, unfortunately, lapping the opposing jammer is not easy because you've got both jammers going around. So you got both jammers going around. It's so pain in the ass to move these both at once. Anyway, point being, you got both jammers going around the track, and it's not, you might have no lap points in a jam. You might have numerous lap points in a jam. It's very difficult to say. The classic example of a not point is this. Okay, let's say this is a scoring trip. Purple jammer has lapping position. I'll explain that in a second. Purple jammer comes through. It's just lapping. So 5 points, 5 points, 5 points, 5 points. They're just repeatedly lapping yellow jammer. So, what is lapping position? That's an excellent question. I want you to think of lapping position as a light bulb above the head of a jammer. And at the beginning of the initial pass, the light bulb is off. It starts the jam off. Whichever jammer gets in front of the other one first, and mind you, that could just be something as simple as starting 5 feet in front of the other jammer. They're not technically passing them, but, for one, basically, as soon as the jam begins, one jammer instantly establishes a superior position, and their light bulb goes on. So, this case, purple jammer has a light bulb on. Think of the rule this way. You have to have a light bulb on, or the jammer does, in order to score a lap point. So, purple jammer goes through, comes through, boom, lap point. If they call the jam at this instant, purple jammer just scored 1 point for lapping yellow jammer, because they passed yellow jammer while the light was on. Now, what happens if the purple jammer, say we're back to the beginning again, purple jammer has the light on, and yellow jammer goes past? That's simple. Yellow jammer turns their light on, purple jammer turns their light off. Relatively simple. Now, again, I'm going to move these back to give me a little room. So yellow jammer's light is on, so now purple jammer's light is on. Yellow's is on, purple's is on, and so forth. Now, suppose yellow jammer has their light on, and they skate clockwise. Maybe purple jammer was down or something like that. All it does is it turns back on purple's light and turns off yellow's light. So yellow jammer cannot be going 1, 2, 3, 4, like collecting lap points. It also cannot be, let's say this is the start of a jam. Yellow jammer's light is on, yellow jammer goes around, scores a lap point. Yellow jammer cannot go, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They can't gain lap points like that because they're not actually lapping the jammer as they do this. All they're doing is just skating back and forth like an idiot. So at that point, all they're doing is every time they skate there, it's like purple light on, yellow off, boom, yellow on, purple off, purple on, yellow off, yellow on, purple off. They're just kind of swapping it back and forth. So lap points basically have to be done when a jammer has lapping position, which is their light on. What happens if a jammer goes to the box? Boom, yellow jammer, go to the box. The instant either jammer, could be purple, either jammer leaves the track to go to the box, and that's leaves the track, by the way, that lapping position, or that light turns off. So, now mind you, that doesn't mean that when I said the light turns off as they leave the track, that doesn't mean that purple jammer, if their light is on and they get a penalty and they go past yellow on the way out, they get that point. They didn't, because they didn't legally pass, because they're technically on their way to the box. They're not on the track anymore for the sense of scoring over there. So anyway, once it does not work in reverse, by the way. So if yellow is coming in and yellow has their light on, purple jammer gets a penalty and starts to go to the box. Yellow jammer passes purple in that instant before purple leaves the box. That's the lap point. And if the jam ended in that instant, yellow jammer would get the lap point. So, apart from those funny little situations, let's just say jammer gets a penalty, goes to the box. Boom. As soon as they're off the track, and mind you, that's just touching out of bounds. As soon as they're off the track, now both lights are off. So yellow at this point, because purple jammer's a not point. So if yellow starts going, woo, woo, they're getting 5 points. Even from this point, even from, purple leaves the track, and as soon as yellow triggers the point, earns a pass on, say, purple 2, they get a second point because they're getting that jammer's not point. So the jammer is not a knot point and a lap point in the same jam. You can only score on an opponent once per scoring pass, with one exception that I'll talk about in a minute. So again, 5 points, 5 points, 5 points, 5 points. Now, we're going to start making this a little more complicated because, this hasn't been simple enough here. There is a rare situation in which both jammers can have their light on. This is rare. This is very advanced jam reffing stuff. I don't expect you to memorize this if you're a first time, like learning about scoring. You're new to reffing and you're just going to get in the hang of this. But I'm going to outline it anyway, so when you come back in a future time and you re-listen to this, you understand what the heck I'm talking about. So let's say, boom, start of the jam, purple jammer turns their light on. Purple jammer comes around. Yellow jammer manages to knock purple jammer out of bounds. Purple jammer is not past yellow jammer. Yellow jammer goes out of bounds. Purple jammer comes back in front. So they have passed them with no earned pass. Well, while on one hand you could say, well, yeah, yellow or purple's gone a lap around, they didn't get the earned pass on that final pass that would have given them that lap point. So we're not going to give them the lap point. But we do give them the opportunity, just like any other not earned pass, they can go clockwise back to try to get the legal repass. So purple jammer goes clockwise back. Well, in doing so, in going clockwise back, and by the way, it doesn't matter if yellow jammer is still off or on the track at that point. It could be yellow jammer re-enters the track, and then purple goes clockwise. In that moment that purple passes clockwise, yellow light goes on, but purple's does not go off. Because, again, all purple had to do was skate that 2 feet, and then we know that they've now fully lapped yellow jammer. So, for that particular case, for that brief moment in time, their lights are on, and whichever one passes the next one legally first, they get a lap point. So, if yellow jammer goes all the way around, they would get the lap point. If instead purple had gone, like this, purple would get the lap point. If yellow jammer falls, like that, or I should say, if purple jammer passes, purple jammer not only gets the lap point, but yellow's light goes off. Or if yellow had gone all the way around, then purple's light goes off. So it's whichever one scores on the other first, their light stays on, and they get the point. The other one's turns off. All right, let's talk a little bit about communication with this, because as you can see, it can get somewhat complicated trying to remember who has their light bulb on, who has it off, and keeping all this straight. So jammer referees will communicate back and forth to each other quite a bit, and they'll do this by saying things like, I have position, you have position. Like they'll specify that to as one of them's passing the other. Sometimes they're both speaking at once. It's fine. The important thing is to make sure both jammer referees understand at any point who has lapping position and who doesn't. So, as yellow goes past purple, then we'll say that's a matter of fact, it's even the beginning of the jam, so no one's getting a lap point. Purple jammer goes past yellow, purple jam ref might say, I have position. I have position. I have position. They're specifying there, or you have position if purple jammer referee is speaking up. It doesn't matter kind of who's saying them, but they want to kind of be clear between them over there. That way, when you get these messy jams and the jammers are going back, clockwise, back and forth, because sometimes it happens that purple jammer gets dragged clockwise and they're stuck in the jam, and suddenly a moment later, yellow jammer comes whizzing along past purple jammer. And purple jam ref is now like, wait a second, did I just get lapped, or was this a case where yellow jammer had gotten pulled clockwise too and then just gone back past, but I missed them going clockwise. It's easy to miss this. There's, because the yellow jammer might have been out of bounds, and purple jammer referee was kind of busy looking at the feet on the inside line or something. So it's important for the referees to kind of stay in communication about this, because it will happen, and often does, that one jam referee says, lap point, maybe tapping their helmet, and the other one goes, no, you have position, or no, I have position, or something, like one is correcting the other or such. So try to stay in the same page. Similarly, this all matters a little bit for scoring too, and about when a jammer goes to the box, because purple is now a jammer lap point and is going around and such like this, and it matters on whether this jammer enters behind yellow jammer, in which case there's still a knot point because remember they're a not point until they're able to pass and get up front. Or if yellow jammer enters ahead, purple jammer enters ahead, in which case passing going through here would not be a not point, but it would trigger lapping position. So sometimes, like let's say yellow jammer is about to exit the track and purple jammer is about to enter. Well, the yellow jammer referee is looking at yellow jammer. They're not looking back at purple. So as soon as yellow exits the track, it's helpful if the purple jammer referee can note, at the time of reentry, because they got a pretty good idea. There's no one around. There's going to be no potential penalties the way they reenter. So they can take half a second and glance to see where the position of yellow jammer is, and they can see, are they, in the engagement zone or are they out? Because that's the difference between saying that yellow entered ahead and yellow entered behind. Now, purple jammer may whiz right through, and yellow jammer's down here, and the referees don't have any chance to talk because they're too far away from each other. And so that's a point where they can drop off that communication with the jammer referee. With the IPR. And they can, so as purple referee, there we go, skates past the IPR, they can basically say, return to in front or return to in back, whichever is the case. And they're just letting them know so that when yellow jammer referee comes around, then the yellow jammer then the IPR can then tell, can then inform, the reform yellow jammer referee, purple jammer returned in front, because otherwise yellow jammer referee might kind of just glance before they enter and go, okay, I see the jammer referee way up there, but I don't know if they returned in back or returned in front, so I don't know whether to award the not point on this pass. So again, giving a little communication on that to the penalty box will help with both the awarding of not points and the figuring out of the points, about like when a person gets lapping position, as opposed to a lap point or not. It's when in doubt, communicate through the IPRs. Okay. Oh, I want to talk a little bit here about another aspect of lap points. First, you can get more than one lap point in a jam. So let's say this is a scoring trip. Yellow jammer, their toe stop has come undone, like this. So purple jammer, yellow jammer basically kind of like pulls over here, and they're trying to screw in their toe stop. They're out of bounds. They have not withdrawn from the bound. But the whole pack, and for the sake of simplicity, I'm just going to say that one blocker is the entire pack. Ignore all these other people out of bounds. I'm just going to say that purple pivot is, there we go, and they're skating around. Pardon that purple jammer's in front for a second, but they skate around and they skate around. Every time they skate past that purple jammer, because they're stuck behind the pivot, stuck behind the pack, is picking up another lap point. So, if yellow jammer goes out to fix the toe stop, and they skate around once, and boom, there's a lap point, and then there's a second lap point. So there could actually be 2 lap points. Again, very rare, but it can happen. You are more likely to encounter. And here's another possibility too. So you can get a lap point on the initial pass. Now you can't score points on the opposing blockers during the initial pass. The exception being overtime jams, which we mentioned in the last lesson. However, you can score a lap point in the initial pass. It is very rare. It either basically means, again, we've got that toe stop or whatever scenario where the jammer basically just kind of bows out for a minute, the whole pack goes around. That's rare. More likely, it will be another rare scenario, which they call a soul crush or eating the baby. So, for example, yellow jammer, doesn't matter who's got the light on. Yellow jammer now pushes purple jammer out of bounds. Purple jammer pushes yellow out of bounds. Purple jammer has stayed in bounds. Now, yellow jammer, to avoid a cut penalty, has to return behind purple jammer. Purple jammer, not being bound to the engagement zone, starts skating like this. Oops, skates around the track. So yellow jammer's like, oh, well, I suppose I'd better go like this. Purple jammer goes like this. Yellow comes around. Now, the purple players know exactly what yellow is trying to do. So the purple players are starting to run up to the front of the engagement zone. They're running up a little bit like this. And what happens is purple jammer is going to stop right here. Yellow jammer is like, now I have to enter back here. And yellow jammer enters. Purple jammer starts taking off. And immediately these blockers get in yellow jammer's way. Now, yellow jammer has again, because they have entered that engagement zone, as from the front, has now returned to the prior trip through the pack. So, when purple jammer leaves, their light is on, and they go around, and they now make their way through the pack. Now, purple gets a lead, and purple gets a point on yellow jammer. This is a lap point. You don't report it right away because you have to hold up the lead sign. You can't, you don't have any chance to hold up the score. You wait until the end of the first scoring trip, and then you would hold up, 1-5, 1-5, 1-5, something. And a knowledgeable scorekeeper will know what that means and will fill it correctly on the paperwork. A not so knowledgeable scorekeeper is going to go 1-5. What? I don't understand. At the end of the jam, it's a good idea, unless you're working with someone who's really good, skate over to the scorekeeper, and then basically, not the jammer, but the referee, skate over to your scorekeeper and, just confirm with them. Say, hey, that was 1 point on the initial pass, like that. Knowledgeable scorekeeper will say, yeah, I get it. A not so knowledgeable will say, really? And they'll probably turn to their person next to them and ask how to fill the paperwork out. And just in case anybody ever asks you, the answer is they write 1 + 5 on the box for the first scoring trip. That pretty much concludes our lesson here. And oh, by the way, that was very rare, that scenario I just described. It happens. I've never seen it, but I know referees have had. But that concludes our lesson here. I'm going to put a link in the show notes to Adam Smasher's brilliant graphic on understanding lapping position and jammer lap points. I strongly recommend you check it out. It does a great job of explaining. Otherwise, we'll be back in Lesson 17, Introduction to Penalties. Thank you.